Hello guys, welcome back to another election prediction video. This time we're doing the monthly prediction of Biden versus Trump, which is probably the most likely scenario we're going to see in 2024, assuming Trump doesn't get convicted of a crime or anything like that that prevents him from running for president. If everything just stays the same as they are right now, I could see Trump being the 2024 Republican nominee. The only real challenge to Trump is mainly Ron DeSantis, but I don't think Ron DeSantis would challenge Trump if Trump were to run. So let's get right into this. Democrats have really picked up a lot of momentum, and Biden's approval rating has gone up quite considerably. Some polls even have him at 44 or 45%, which is pretty good for him, honestly, when he was down in like the 30s. So he has a real chance at changing the momentum of the race. So let's get started with this. All right, Colorado and New Mexico. New Mexico, just about a 9.5% margin. I would say Biden would win it by, while Colorado easily clears up over 10% at this point. Virginia, it's around an 8.5 to 9% win for Joe Biden. It'll be a little bit of a dip in support, mainly because his approval rating's still negative overall, which definitely hurts him. But his favorability rating is higher than Trump, so that's one thing that's kind of going good for Joe Biden so far. Iowa still hates Joe Biden a lot. I don't see Joe Biden being competitive in this state. Ohio, I only think Trump's going to win this state by 9 points against Joe Biden now instead of over 10%, just because the Democrats have been doing pretty good recently with approval ratings, and they're definitely getting a lot of momentum back. Texas, still think it's out of reach for the Biden campaign. I don't think he should focus on winning this state. It just seemed way too out of reach for him to really win it. And I still think a lot of Latinos are shifting to the right here, especially in Texas. In Florida, this race is no longer a likely race. I think it's within the lean category. I see Trump either winning here by about 3 or 4% still. Just teetering from going to likely, but that's the margin I would say. It's down to the lean margin for sure now. State of North Carolina, it's also down to the lean margin for Trump. Probably a 2 to 3% win, I would say, for Trump against Joe Biden so far. The state of Georgia, and I'll come back to the one near the end. Nebraska's second district. That leans Democratic. It still overall doesn't like Trump, and Trump lost here by a pretty wide margin anyway. Nevada and Arizona, I'll come back to those two later after we do the Rust Belt. New Hampshire and Maine, which I see them probably both going by likely margins. Maybe New Hampshire goes by about a 4% margin. I'd give Trump the benefit of the doubt here. I think he'll get it probably around 4.5% Biden victory, I would say, while Maine second would go to Trump by a likely margin, same margin as before. In these four Rust Belt states, Minnesota, I expect Biden to probably win here by about, honestly, I see him probably clearing about a 5% win, just barely keeping it above the likely margin. I do think he could pull it off, and I do think most of his supporters will probably come out and vote for him again because he did get a lot of legislative victories last month. Michigan, I'll come back to that one. Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I'll come back to that one. So, which state are we doing? Which state should we go to? Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Nevada's an easy one. I think it kind of tilts towards Trump just a tiny bit. While Arizona, I really think Joe Biden would have a chance at probably holding this state, honestly, against Trump. Arizona still doesn't like Trump that much. And honestly, you have a very far-right candidate in Blake Masters who's running on Trump policies, and he's getting destroyed by Mark Kelly so far in the polling. So I like to think that Biden probably has a slight lead here, even though some polls haven't been really coming out of the 2024 election here. I like to think that Biden's doing a bit better here just because of Mark Kelly's destroying the Trump-backed candidate so badly. In Georgia, that's a really hard state to predict. I would say it just narrowly tilts towards Trump so far, just a very narrow tilt. Just because the Republicans are actually kind of competitive in the Senate race here. I'm using the Senate races to base it off. So I think Trump would be a bit competitive here and probably have a narrow advantage. In Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I still see them as lean losses for Joe Biden, and he loses the election just because these two states will still vote for Trump. Well, Michigan, honestly, I think Biden could flip this state just by a narrow tilt margin, just because it was won by a pretty Democratic margin. You have someone super far right running in Michigan, and they're getting destroyed. So this is the electoral map. It has definitely narrowed the gap between Biden and Trump's electoral vote count by a lot. I really do think Biden's turning this around. His approval rating's going higher. He has a real shot here, but I think Trump's advantage at the Electoral College is still too much for him to overcome this disadvantage. So let me know what you think of this election prediction video in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.